Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So most of you kind of know why you would want to use a VA one-time close construction, but generally sometimes it's because you're not finding what you want in your market. Maybe you want something custom, or maybe you have the time and resources to construct that perfect home, that you're just not finding somewhere else. So of course, this one-time close construction is not available by all lenders. So there's plenty of times I can tell you for myself, I spent 8 years in the mortgage industry telling people that this was an actual unicorn, that the VA will say that you can do it, but in reality, they are not offering the loan product. So what it is that there are some banks that do not offer a one-time close. They might offer you a two-time close construction loan, but this is a unique product that over the past few years has been opening up significantly in the market. So the qualifying for this type of loan is going to be very similar to qualifying for an already built home. So we're going to look at your income, your asset documentation, your credit profile, and we are going to talk about available lenders. So right now I have about 4 available lenders who are offering this loan product. And so when you reach out to a lender, you want to make sure that they have the availability to do this actual loan process. This is a one-time close. Now, some will convince you that you should be doing a 2-time close. I would like to be very clear in saying that it is out here. There are people doing it. And so just inquire until you find the right answer. Sam, can you talk about the property types that you can build? Because this is a big thing that we get asked about a lot.
Yeah, so with your VA one-time close, you can build a single family residence. You can build, you can buy land and put manufactured homes on those properties. You can build barndominiums as long as the comparables are in the area. If there aren't any comparables for barndominiums, you might have a problem. So you want to check on that prior to trying to build one, as well as tiny homes. They are allowed if it is popular in that area for a tiny home. Not a tiny home on wheels, though, one that is permanently affixed to foundation.
Yeah, one of the other questions that we get a lot is that, or one that we don't know, or someone doesn't know that it's actually a one-time close, would be a manufactured home that's put on land as well. So that's also considered a one-time close construction. Now, the benefit of this is that there's going to be one appraisal. So, and when I say one appraisal, they are going to go out and check it once construction is done. And we're going through underwriting one time. That means one underwriter. We're not having to close this 2 times. So one closing, one underwriter. And then one of the unique benefits of the VA one-time close construction, which would not be available if you were doing a 2-time close construction, is that mortgage payments actually start when construction is complete. So we are going to close the loan, and you are going to make your first payment once construction is complete. Now, one of the important things about the process that we definitely like to talk about is that this is not a fast process. It is very involved, and there are some key responsibilities that are going to be on your part that are very important for you to know. So regular pre-approval for the loan is going to be exactly the same as if you were purchasing a already built home. So that pre-approval is going to be 24 to 72 hours. Your lender might require that we do a hard pull credit pull, just so we can use our automated underwriting system to make sure that you are officially qualified, even though this process might last to the point where we might actually have to do another credit pull. So it's very important to understand. Now, Sam, can you talk about the discovery stage of this process?
So I do want to put out there that you can build multifamilies, 1 to 4 units with the construction loan. I've seen that come across the screen. Forgot to mention that. So the discovery process, when you're working with your realtor to define the land that you want to build on, there's different phases of the process. You find the land, then you want to speak with the city to determine what can actually be built, whether it's single family, multifamily. You want to make sure that it's not commercial. So you want to, confirm with the city the zoning requirements for that particular property. And with the due diligence on this land, many times you don't have 1 to 3 months to determine what that property can be used used for. So if you find the land, go directly to the city. And I tell people, do not listen to your realtor. Yes, I am a realtor, but do not listen to me. The person that can tell you what to do with this land is the city. I can tell you what I see online, but the city is going to be the one to be the ultimate deciding factor on whether or not that property can be used for a single family or a multifamily property. You want to verify that the property has utilities. If that property does not have utilities, which consist of water, septic, or electrical, you want to make sure that you allocate funds during your budget with the builder for those items. You can purchase it if it's not improved land, meaning that it has utilities on it already. However, you want to make sure that you allot the cost for those specific items to be part of your process. So when you're reviewing the land and deciding on an area to purchase, it can take anywhere from 1 to 3 months just doing due diligence. But if you get with somebody that's knowledgeable and knows the process of development, you can shorten that time frame to under 30 days.
It's definitely a long process. So I know that, you know, for you as the veteran, your concept of time might be say this is a long loan process, but the actual loan process starts after this discovery stage. So after you and your builder have decided on plans, after you have located a property, after you have decided on a purchase price, that is when the actual loan process begins. So that loan timeline, depending on how much we have squared away in that discovery stage, can last anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And we want to be very mindful of the time frame during this because we are locking in your interest rate at that time. And then once we close the loan, that is when the actual construction process starts. So it's really important for you to take time to do your research first, right? So you want to research the builder, research your lender, research the land and the permitting and what's being allowed. So there are a couple things that you are going to be responsible for, which, you know, we kind of discussed some of these already. So obviously I have said some lenders are going to tell you that this is not available. This is definitely an available product. And so you just need to be reaching out to the right lenders or the right mortgage professionals. So in some cases, you're going to research and select home builder. And so I know a lot of people have used the word VA approved builders, but I want to be clear that the VA does not vet these builders to make sure that they do right by veterans. They are simply issuing a VA lender ID to those builders and making sure that they're following the law as far as their taxes and their employment, or they're following the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. So you want to prepare your finances. So that's making sure that you are prepared. Now, there are costs involved with this VA one-time close construction. And I do understand that this is a zero down home loan. However, there are some upfront expenses. You might have to pay for a survey on land. You might need to hook up utilities prior to. You may have to have some testing to the soil before you decide that you're going to build on this land. So make sure that you are prepared to understand what kind of finances you're going to need to get to the actual loan process. And it's very important for you to be involved and for you to choose a builder who is going to be involved. One thing is that builders are fantastic at construction and they are not fantastic at actually completing what we need on the lender side to make sure that we have all the information that we need to know to lend on this particular contract, right? So they have a lot of things that they need to fill out. We're going to get to the point in the process where we're asking them to assign a value to each and everything within that home. So we have the full construction price. We want to know how much they're building into their contract for their own profit. What is the cost of countertops? What is the cost of doorknobs, doors, windows? We want to make sure all those costs in there because we don't want any surprises in once we're in underwriting. And then for the lender is we're going to qualify you and make sure that you are qualified to get all the way through this process. And then on the back end, the actual lender is going to manage that construction process and disperse the construction draws to the builder. So we're going to close the loan and then the builder is going to get pieces of that entire budget throughout the process once they meet certain timelines. Now, Sam, what is the builder's responsibilities for this?
So when you are interviewing your builders, if they are not already VA approved builder, meaning they provided the documents required to get on a list, and as Brandi stated, it's not a strenuous process. It's literally like the worst process that, in my opinion, they can do to vet to put the builder on the list. But basically, there's like 4 to 5 documents that the builder will fill out, send it to the VA, and then they'll get an approval with the VA builder ID in 5 to 7 days or not. So if they're a VA approved builder, that's one. If they're not, the process to get them approved is very easy. Then after you speak with the VA approved builder, you're going to discuss your budget with that builder, and then that builder will put it on a list to be able to send over to your lender to review. And they can send over this item. So if it's not itemized properly, they'll send it back to the builder to adjust. So example, you can't just put, oh, we're putting cabinets in this property. It has to be shaker style. It has to be RFA, or if it's custom, is it white oak? You want to be real specific with the items that you want your builder to put in your property, because these items will determine your actual true value for the appraisal. So when the builder is providing documents to the lender, personal items, they consider their tax returns. They consider their credit score with most of the lenders that approve you as a builder. They consider the properties that you have built before. So if you have a builder that's never built a property and does not have a track record, it's going to be very hard for them to be approved by one of these lenders that's offering them to be a builder for you as a veteran. The reason why is because you don't want just anyone building your property and then it ends up, falling apart when you move in. I'm in quite a bit of builder groups and I see it all day long. The builder failed this, the builder didn't do this, and this and that. So you just want to make sure that you're dealing with somebody that has the team that has done projects to what you're looking to do. And they will also, even though the VA allows a veteran to build their own house per the guidelines, none of the lenders that we have come across will allow you as the veteran to build your own house that we have found. So somebody asked that question. You typically have to hire a builder to build your property. What other questions did you have, Brandi?
No, I think that's it for this page, this particular slide. But one of the things that I do want to point out is that one of the things that we're going to talk about is risk, and the lender is the person who's taking on the most risk. So this is a costly loan type, and it's also interest rates are quite a bit higher for this loan type. And when I say quite a bit higher, they are just not what you are going to hear is the average interest rate for just a regular purchase that you're looking at. So it's important to consider that as well. So we're going to consider all of this in the actual construction budget. We're going to talk about your land purchase price. So Sam, when you're shopping for land, like what are you looking for, or what are the ways that you're purchasing land?
So when y'all are looking for land to buy and build, if your finances are max 400,000, then you're not going to want to look at land at $100,000 because that's going to eat up your construction budget. You want to typically try to stay anywhere between 25 to 30% of your actual approval value for the total construction. If you could get it under, great. I know here in Dallas, Texas, we are skyrocketed on land costs, as well as Austin, Texas, and other areas. So if you could stay between that 25 to 30% of the actual approval amount that you're looking to build out at, that'll be a good way to kind of focus your land purchase on. There's off-market land that you can look into. There's on-market land that you can look into. There's different land websites that you can go on and view land in different areas for purchase. So there's a whole bunch of different avenues to try to find land that's going to benefit you on a build.
Do some builders have like leads on particular lands where they can build?
Yes, so depending on the builder that you're working with, they could possibly be a small builder that has land that they own already. Or you could possibly be working with a mass production builder that also not just builds spec homes, which is the homes is what you see is what you get. They might also have other individual lots that they build on as well for individuals. So your builder could also have land available for you as well.
So in your loan, in the total loan process, we're going to consider the cost of your land. We are going to determine a price with your builder, and that's when we talk about the builder going over exactly what that costs. They're going to build in their profit. We're also generally, most of these contracts are going to build in seller concessions from the builder. And so that's pretty important and pretty typical. So it would be just the same as you buying a new construction home where you're purchasing at a certain price, and then the builder is giving you back some concessions. So ideally we would have those built into the contract, but we just need to make sure that we have comparable sales available to be able to build that into the contract. And then we're also going to build in a contract contingency. Now, this is a requirement of the lender. So we want to make sure that over the course of the construction, if material costs have increased from the time that we close the loan until the time that your construction is due to be complete, then we want to make sure that we build in a little bit of extra for that. And so the lender is going to require that we put in 5%. In Texas, they do require a 10% contract contingency to make sure that we have that extra built into the budget. So just to go over kind of exactly what this looks like. Now we're going to look at this land purchase. So we're going to assume just as a fictional construction budget that our land purchase was 100,000. And for you, Sam, we talked about this builder contract price being 400,000. So how did we get to that number?
So for those of you that are looking to build a house, builders price their build outs by per square foot, right? So typically on pre-owned homes, we don't use per square foot, we use market value. So in order to determine your actual build out cost and your actual appraised value on new construction, we typically go price per square foot. So example, on this one, we use 200 per square foot. So that means that the builder is going to charge you $200 per square foot of that property. And on this one, we use 2,000 square foot property. So at 200 times 2,000 square feet, your build out price will be 400,000. That's just for the build out. That is not the land. That's just for the build out.
So one of the important things to remember is that if you got pre-qualified for 500,000, that is not what we are not looking for $100,000 purchase price and a $400,000 property, because there are some other things that are added into the contract. So this right here is a very important thing for you to understand. So remember when we talked about the cost, I'm sorry, when you talked about like not making payments during the construction process. Now the lender is taking on a lot of risk, right? You're putting zero money down and you're making no payments during the construction process. Anything could go wrong and they are left on the hook for this process. So in here, they build in the lender's fees. And so these lender's fees are your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance during that build time. So let's say, for example, I did assume here that the timeline was about 8 months and that your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on this was about $3,500. So for 8 months, this $28,000 is going to be rolled into this whole loan process. And so we want to make sure that when we're getting comps for this particular property, that you're understanding that it's going to need to come in at this 578. So we're going to build in the seller's concessions of $10,000 from the builder to you, and then we're going to build in our contract contingency. Now, like I stated before, it's going to be a 5% contingency. In other states, in Texas, it's required to have 10% contingency. Now, what happens to this money if, let's just say we get to the end of the process and the builder did not use this actual amount? What's going to happen is that they're going to reduce your principal by what's left over. So if any of this money is left over, they are going to reduce your principal when they adjust the loan at the end. So your total all-in price is $578. Sorry, I scooped right past that. But anyway, so let's talk about the appraisal process. You are going to visit your builder. You guys are going to get a plan. You are going to talk about cost, and then all of that together is going to be what's used for the actual appraisal. So there is going to be no there is no house to see for the appraiser to go ahead and value your property. And so they are going to value your property over like the finishes that you chose, the square footage, the available comps in the area. And so, is there anything that you have to say about the appraiser as about the appraisal as the builder and the real estate agent?
So so some of these builders out here, if their price is their price, okay? So, and I say that to say that if they tell you, hey, I'm building out at 200 per square foot, but their job is not to do the comps. Your lender and appraiser is the one to give you that value, or your realtor if you're working with the realtor, because sometimes people don't work with realtors when they're buying land and building. So between your appraiser that the lender hires, the lender and your realtor, they're going to be the ones to determine the actual value of the property. Your builder doesn't really care. They should, but they don't, because they're going to give you the price of what it's going to cost for them to build out. And then from there, if that appraisal comes in, let's just say you are building out a $600,000 house, but the appraisal comes in at 550. And I've seen this happen and heard of it happening. So you just want to make sure that you get everything done properly up front. So you contract at 600,000, but the appraisal comes in at 550. You're going to be responsible for that difference of 50K. If you want that $600,000 house and that's the builder's pricing, you're definitely going to be responsible for that 50K, or you're going to have to dumb that budget down a little bit. So when you're working on your numbers with the builder, make sure that you have some type of knowledge of the construction that's going on in the area, so that way you kind of know where your numbers need to sit. I've had instances where I've had to price a home based off of the surrounding area, because we're building in a subdivision of no new construction. So we have to go and pull our numbers from outside of that subdivision for the new construction that's going on in the area. You can do that on new construction, as long as you don't go too far out. And neighborhood has to meet that same neighborhood as well. So just make sure the due diligence is done up front, so you're not coming to the table with money at the end.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things where it doesn't seem like you would need an actual real estate agent to sort of help you through this process, but it is very important for you to have someone who's keeping an eye on the comparable sales in the area. So your appraisal costs are going to be the same as pretty much any other appraisal. They might charge about $50 more for construction property. And then we always need to add in a little bit additional for any additional visits that the appraiser needs to go out, if they need to go out and check the property at some point once construction is over with. So the amortization of your loan. So remember, we talked about not making payments during the construction process. And so let's just say if you're going to, the construction is going to take about 6 months, the amortization on that property is going to be, once you get to the end of construction, your full repayment is going to be 29 years and 6 months. And so the final terms are adjusted when the construction is complete and the home is where your construction goes into your loan goes to being permanent. At that point, there is some options. I know this is something that comes up quite a bit. There are some options with some lenders to be able to float down your interest rate at that time. But it's not always an option. It could be that you have to wait for a refinance after that. So, Sam, do you want to take the funding fee?
So if you are a disabled veteran of 10% or more, funding fee is waived for you. If you're not a veteran or a military personnel with a 10% or more funding fee, there's a funding fee assessed to you at closing that will be typically rolled into the loan price. So if it's a $15,000 funding fee assessed, your total loan price will be $415,000. So it's not out of pocket unless you want to pay it out of pocket.
which I don't recommend, but you know,
Yeah,
some people
me
want to pay it. So yeah, so the lender fee, so the lender may charge up to 2% of the loan amount for its services and an additional 1% flat fee. So it's important for you to remember that when we went over the construction budget, we did not go over closing costs. There are still title costs, there are still the cost of your interest rate. You may want to buy down points. There's still some insurance cost. So it's important for you to know that that construction budget is not what your closing costs are. So it's very important for you to delineate between the two. The builders are responsible for paying some of the fees. So this is some questions that you might get from a builder that you're asking questions for. What are the fees? So it's important for you to put your builder in contact with your mortgage professional so they can go over exactly what their responsibilities are of the builder so they understand what's coming from those construction draws. And so it's important to also remember that anything that you chose, let's just say you chose marble countertops, for example, and once your budget runs out, if you get to the end and you don't have, like we've used all of that builder contingency, anything over and beyond that, we've closed the loan. So that is going to be your responsibility in cash. So Sam, talk about some of the pros of this. I know we've talked about a lot of things that might seem a little bit negative, but about some of the pros of this whole process.
The pros with building a home from the ground up using your VA loan is you are 100% financed outside of your closing costs. Unless the builder decides to include it in your cost, then it's still 100%. Your typical construction loans, you're putting down 20% or more, so that's a big benefit. Credit standards, they're a little bit, VA loans are relaxed on their credit standards, so you can get away with a lower credit score. Most of the lenders do require 600, 620 for these options, but you might have a few that's willing to go under out of the lenders that offer the VA one-time construction loans. Only one closing is required, which saves you cost on two-time fees, such as closing cost fees. So if you close once, there's a fee, and if you have to close a second time, there's another fee. So let's just say each time you close, that's $5,000. You're saving $5,000 by only closing on the land and construction one time. You have no PMI or mortgage insurance on a VA loan. That saves you $100 plus on your total mortgage payment. And with your VA one-time construction loan, most of the lenders that offer it, they lock in the rate so that way you're not worrying about it floating during that 6 to 12-month build process.
Yeah, during that two-time closed construction, it's pretty typical for them to float you for a period of time during that construction. So it's really important. So this, we're locking it, we're closing it, and then construction is beginning. Now, some of the cons are obviously there are limited lenders. And there are some cases where you are going to be required to put a down payment. So some lenders are, once you go over a particular amount, they might require a 5% down payment. So it's only typical when you're getting into that jumbo loan type where they're going to require a little bit more of a down payment. And then again, you need to watch for any overages. So you want to make sure that your house is being valued at what's typical in your area, or you could be required to put a down payment. So interest rates on this are typically higher. So I want to be very clear in saying that you are not going to get the same interest rate for purchasing an already constructed home as you are for a one-time closed construction. Remember, this is a risky loan for the lender, and that is shown in the interest rates that you're being offered. I would say that they're probably at least 1% to 1.5% higher. And again, if this is your dream, then the interest rate is always something that you can refinance. Now, the appraisals might take a little bit longer. Remember, the appraiser is having to do this off of specs and plans. So it's important that we give them the information that they need to value the property, what you need that value to come in at. And again, as you can probably tell, it can become very expensive. So it requires really good communication between you, your builder, your mortgage professional, and making sure that everybody is on the same page and understands. So we make sure that we don't go over that construction budget. The last thing that we want is for you to have to come out of pocket and make this a bad experience for you. So now we are at the frequently asked questions. And so we answer these questions a lot in our Vetted VA Facebook group. And so I figured just some of these might be important to you. This first question is something that I have run into recently. So can I have a VA loan and build with my remaining entitlement? While the answer to that is yes, it's important for you to know that if you're going to be living in your current VA purchased home while you're having construction done on the new construction, you have to qualify for both mortgages at the same time. Even though you're not going to be making payments on that one-time closed construction, you have both loans at the same time. So you're having to qualify for both loans at the same time. So one of the ways out of that is that you can dispose of the property. If you were planning on selling, my advice is to go ahead and sell that property and then rent while you're actually building the other, because if you rent the property, then I cannot use that rental income, I guess, from that property until you've had 2 years of it being rented. So this is definitely something that we need to discuss if you have a current VA home loan and you're wanting to use your one-time closed construction. Again, we've gone over this, but we get the question all the time, Sam, can I build a barn dominium, multi-unit, or tiny home?
The answer is yes, as long as there are comparables in the surrounding area to match what you're trying to build.
So the VA stance on that is a home is a home, right? So we want to make sure that if you're building a barn dominium, it's not in the middle of every home in this area is 100% brick. I mean, that's pretty typical in Texas that they used to be just all needed to be brick homes. And so that barn dominium would sort of be out of place in there. And again, for the same for a tiny home. Now, can I build on land that I already own? Absolutely, you can build on land that you already own. If you own it outright, then we can use the value of that land to be your equity payment into this actual loan process. And then if you still have a payment on that loan, typically, some of the land that you are still paying on, you might have like a 20-year amortization and have put 5% down. You might have put 30% down and have a 10-year amortization. We are going to include that into, so we're going to pay off that loan and we're going to include it in this one-time closed construction. And we went over this one before, but again, we get it all the time, Sam. Can I be the builder and the borrower?
You per VA guidelines, and I'm saying per VA guidelines, you can. However, there are not many lenders that will allow you to be the builder and the borrower.
Yeah, I have not found any one builder who's going, that is a huge risk to the lender themselves. So what happens to the builder contingency if it's not used? So if it's not used, then it's going to be applied back to your loan as a principal reduction. So if your loan was 578, you did not use that 40,000, it's going to reduce that loan amount. And then you can always refinance into a lower rate after construction. So I'm going to skip on to the next slide. Sam, can I build a detached garage or a swimming pool?
Okay, so I'm gonna talk in regards to the swimming pool part. A lot of people want to build a swimming pool when they're building a house. A swimming pool is not allowed. However, I have seen where the builders were able to fit the budget within the total budget for the buyer. So some have gotten away with it, but no. Detached garage is that a yes, Brandi? A detached garage?
So it's the same for both, right? You are allowed to build a detached garage or even a swimming pool, like per the VA guidelines. However, the reality is that the cost of each of these might push outside of your budget to where, do you want to spend that extra amount on a swimming pool, but not get what you want in your house? So it's important for us to look at comparables and what's available. I have had a client build a detached garage in cash on the land that we were using. And so they did that completely separate of this transaction.
And the issue comes in with the, so the issue with these items are the appraisal value. If people don't have swimming pools, and then you don't get dollar for dollar. So if somebody's building you a pool at $60,000, that's not going to be included in your appraisal value because they do not give you dollar for dollar. So that's where those issues come in when it comes to adding on additional items to the property.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult, especially with the cost of swimming pools and things like that. So, uh, um, like I said, building the detached garage. So, let's just say, for example, you have 18 acres and we're building on 3 acres. Then outside of that, those 3 acres that your home is going to be on is where you build that cash detached garage. That's pretty common and can be worked out between you and the builder. So what happens if construction costs exceed the original estimate? That is out of your pocket. So we want to make sure that we are really clear with that budget and we want to make sure that we follow it. Minimum credit score or debt to income ratio requirements. So while the VA loan does not have a minimum credit score requirement or debt to income ratio, some lenders for this particular loan product do have a max debt to income ratio. Some loans that we do might exceed like a 50% debt to income ratio. For this particular requirement, again, it's risky to the builder, so they have some additional requirements. So there are requirements on that. And there's a typo here, but can I build on land that already has a home on it, Sam?
The answer to that is no, because it's already improved land. So with a VA loan, the house is going to have to be torn down prior to construction.
Well, one of the things that you can also do, like depending on the amount of land that it is, if you parcel out that land where you can, you're only going to build on one particular parcel, but that's going to require you to, do your due diligence with the city to break that land into multiple pieces. So that's important to know.
Yeah,
So
and
at this point, we are kind of done.
that's a longer process too. So when you start looking at land that already has properties on it, you have to go to the city. There has to be a platting process. The city of Dallas takes at a minimum 1 year. So depending on the city or county you're in, just add that 1 year onto your construction timeline. One thing that I did want to put out is when you're dealing with builders out here in any area that you're in, whichever state you're in, there is a process that the lenders require when they give these funds to the builder. After they've done a certain portion of their construction, if the builder is not requiring lien waivers from those contractors and the builder prior to issuing those funds, you want to make sure that you include your own, so that way no contractor can come back and state that somebody was not paid at the end of construction and now you have a lien on your property after closing because so and so didn't get paid for, putting in the stairs or putting on the roof or whatever the item was that the builder was supposed to pay the subcontractor for. So lien waivers are very important during your build process if your lender is not already requiring it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is definitely some requirements there from the lender side within the disclosures that you'll receive from the lender. So that's super important. So now we're going to open it up to questions. I know that there's been some questions moving through in the chat. Let's see. I think we have some of our VVA people who are in here. Maybe they'll want to drop in. Brandi, do you want to let us know if there's some questions that have come across that we need to address?
I apologize, y'all. I had to step out of the house, so I passed it over to the moderators.
That's okay. Nita, have you been following?
I am, and the moderators are answering questions. Just remind everybody that we will be posting this recording on the Vetted VA YouTube channel. And if you want to go through this course and materials again, you can register with the Vetted VA's VA OTC course. It's free for you guys. You're just going to sign up on a Google form, and I believe that was shared on here, or it will be emailed out to you all. But yeah, the moderators are handling the questions. If something else pops up, I'll bring it up.
Fantastic. Well, so here's some important numbers that you might want to that you might need during your course. So if you have questions that are specifically VA specific, now you can reach out in the Vetted VA Facebook to ask any questions that you have specifically. So if you're not already a member of Vetted VA, please join us on Facebook. that is a veteran only group that is moderated by those of us in vetted VA. And you must be a vetted professional to be in that group if you are a real estate agent or mortgage professional. So if you are a mortgage professional or real estate professional, we have a special group for you. So that is vettedva.com, or sorry, vetted VA for professionals only, also on Facebook. And so that's where we can answer any of your questions that you might have with transactions that you're in with other sort of VA lenders where you're not sure that they're telling you the right thing. So make sure that you use that group as a resource. And also, so we have the professionals group, your VA regional loan center. This is going to take you to every regional loan center all over the country. So this one number will take you there. And then we have a training program. Sam, tell us about the training program.
So vetted VA, we are all about education and not solicitation. So a lot of you guys may think, when you join some of these groups out here that people are going to be in there like, oh, yes, I can be your realtor. Oh, yes, I can be your lender. We are not that type of family in vetted VA. If you have specific questions, we answer those questions with no regards of reciprocation from you asking those. So please come and join our vetted VA family and look at the questions that are in there. They have also put together credit training courses for you guys, new construction courses for you guys, for you as individual consumers to take, to learn things that a lot of professionals, lenders and realtors, and builders do not know. So we as the professionals in vetted VA, we go through a rigorous training course, one that makes you want to pull your hair out sometimes, but but we go through the training just so that way we can give you the best responses and the correct responses when dealing with VA guidelines.
Right. So Nita, you have a question?
Yes, we have a question from Kevin Vorbeck. I'm going to see if, Kevin, can you unmute yourself? Let's see if I can.
Yeah, I am unmuted right now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin.
Awesome. Hey, what's up? Hey, so I had a question regarding the borrower's ability to do work beyond the scope of like the actual build. So let's say borrower gets a builder contract for $400,000. Land it's a moot point. If the borrower working with the builder finds a way to do something under budget, like let's say put a septic in. Let's say the builder budgeted out $12,500 and it's through a reputable company and the builder approves it. Can the borrower then pay out of pocket cash $10,000? Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, you can do all of your site prep out of pocket, and if you clear your own land, the VA does not care.
Right. And then so let's say that's already included in the builder budget. Would that then get refunded and bring down that principal payment at the end of the loan or at the end of the construction?
It doesn't technically. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ariel.
Well, okay, I was gonna say, I've done this. As long as we have an invoice for the work, it doesn't technically need to get rolled into the actual cost of acquisition from the builder, as long as we know that the work has been completed. So it doesn't, you can leave that off technically if we know it's done ahead of time. We just need the proof and permits from the county that it's been done.
Yeah, ideally we would have that all worked out prior to actual doing the loan process.
Yeah.
Got it. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Kevin had another question the other day, which was pretty interesting about can the veteran choose to like have stained concrete as their floor just to kind of save some of their build cost, And so as long as the home is valued that way, and that's what it is. I mean, stained concrete is actually like a flooring type that some people actually choose to have. And so as long as it's valued that way at the beginning and it's in the appraisal that way, and then the answer is yeah, can be. Anybody else have questions?
Kyle asks if you can the borrower do anything during construction like floorings or something they can do with the builder?
Yeah.
Okay, so The answer to that is it depends on the builder. So technically VA, I mean, when it comes to things like that, that's a cosmetic thing. So me personally, as a builder, I would allow, if the borrower is somebody who does flooring or whatever, if you want to do the flooring, I would let you do it. But it's going to depend on the builder. I know a lot of builders would not, but it's definitely going to depend on the builder. But per VA standards, the borrower's not supposed to do anything.
Yeah, that's really big liability on the builder for them, you know, whether or not you actually get hurt on the process. And the end result of this is the responsibility of the builder. They need to make sure that they're going to meet the certificate of occupancy requirements and all of the permitting and inspections and things like that that have to happen. So it is some liability on the builders end. So
Yeah, we have
unfortunately,
a general liability policy that we have to maintain during the process. I mean, any builder you deal with, I've seen it in some of these groups where the builder says, I'm not carrying a policy. The reason why is because that policy is not cheap. Okay, it's over, mine is over $5,000 a year just for a $2 million general liability policy that we have to have. And then we have a builder's risk policy on top of that we have to have. So there's a lot of liability that's at stake in situations like that. So yeah, and then somebody said, can you repeat the answer on can you build on land that you already own? Yes, you can build on land that you already own.
100%. So we have a ton of like other professionals who are in this group, like moderating and stuff like that. So if any of you guys want to unmute and maybe say anything that we forgot to say or something that maybe we should address before we end our call tonight. Ariel, you got anything to say?
Nope.
No. Okay, cool. All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for like joining us tonight, taking time out of your day. And then we look forward to hearing any other questions that you have. Please join us in the Vetted VA Facebook group to answer some of your questions. We have tons of resources in there. And I believe like once you're done, you'll get out a VA one-time close resource guide booklet that's available after this call tonight. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you guys.
Great video.
All right, cool.
Brandi, Sam, I apologize. I'm still out of the house. Are you able to end the Zoom?
I think so.
If not, it's just gonna have to stay open for like 7 more minutes and then I'll close
Yeah,
it
no,
out.
it looks like I can end it. So I'll just hang out here just in case anybody has any questions that they didn't want to ask at the beginning. And then once kind of most everybody leaves, then I will end the call.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, credit score. He just asked about credit score. Corey,
I
the
think
credit
600.
score will depend on the lender. 580 to most are 600 to 620, but you do have some that will go down to a 580, like 1 or 2, but most are 600 to 620 when you're doing OTC.
My goal for anybody who would be doing an OTC is that this process is long enough to where we can hopefully, if you're at a 580, that we would not want to close at a 580 with the amount of interest rate being a little bit higher. If you are at a 580, then it's going to be even higher than that, right? Which is going to take away from some of your construction budget. So if we have the ability to get you to where we can close and your interest rate is 7.25, but you had a 580, so now you're going to be at 8%, then that's going to take away from some of your budget. We really want to work with your mortgage professional to get that score up.
OTC is one-time close. So one-time construction loan. Yes, you can have co-signers on the VA. However, it won't be 100% if they're not a veteran.
Yeah, so there is no such thing as technically a co-signer. They would be a co-borrower. So you have to intend to occupy and they would have to intend to occupy. And so the VA requires the VA guarantees 25% of your loan to the lender. in case of your default. Now, if you are a veteran and a non-veteran, then they're only going to guarantee 12.5%. Now, this isn't not exact math, so any other professionals on here, basically your co-borrower would be coming in with 12.5% down payment. So in that case, we might not look at an actual VA one-time closed construction loan. We might actually look at an FHA loan, which is going to require 3.5% down payment, but still, so less of a down payment, but it might not be the terms that you like.
And your wife would be considered a traditional borrower with you on the loan. So it wouldn't be a cosign. It wouldn't be a cosigner. It would be your wife. And you would still qualify for the 100% financing.
Exactly. So your wife is not a joint loan. That's a regular loan with your spouse. If with a veteran, would you split entitlement? You can do split entitlement with 2 veterans. So 2 veterans, let's just say you and a friend decided you would like to build a duplex on some land. You are going to build it with them. You're each going to use your own entitlement. So you're going to split entitlement between the 2. But we need to make sure that the lender will do a split entitlement loan for one-time closed construction. So I guess it just depends on which lender we would choose to do that. All right, really appreciate you guys for being here. I'm going to go ahead and end the call now. Thanks to all our professionals who hung out and answered a lot of questions. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.